Miss Reba, I might have a little soft spot for you after all. And Dorit girl, you might want to listen to your besties. But what's going on, y'all? It's your girl Tayi to be here. Welcome to my chat party. I'm so glad that you guys could join me to hear my little thoughts, my little opinions about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. If you're showing up fashionably early, fashionably late, for a little bit, for a lot of it, thank you so much in advance for the love. If you would be inclined to hit the subscribe button and become part of my guest list to my party, I would appreciate it even more because the party be lit over here. I don't care what nobody say. It might be a small party. Don't be intimidated because remember, once the word spreads out with a party, then more people start to come, more people start to come. Then you got a sweat box of people and it's a ton and you're having a good old time. So join me, y'all, for the fun and the conversation and also in sharing your thoughts and opinions. I'm not going to waste any more time. I want to get into this episode. While it wasn't a whole lot going on, there were still some things that, we are inclined to be able to talk about. So here we go. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, season 14, episode number 11. So now we're starting the day off with brunch at Sutton's house. Her mom is in the kitchen once Kyle returns from her morning run. So they get a little conversation going on. So we're going to fast forward to Kyle and Sutton getting ready for brunch. And Kyle shares that Reba told her dad was tough on her growing up and not really a nurturing person. And that makes sense given the dynamic of Sutton and her mom. Because these things tend to often be generational, as most of you know, right? It becomes a cycle, it becomes a habit, it becomes something that most often people don't change. And the flow of it just keeps going and going and going and going. And so now Sutton was surprised her mother even shared that much with Kyle. So, knowing based on the prior previews that we saw, I was interested in seeing why the dynamic between Garcelle and Reba wasn't as easy flowing like it was for Reba and Kyle. Now, to the core of it, we can make our own assumptions and presumptions, but I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. She just opened up the car with no problem. But, we see the preview where she's telling Garcelle she needs to mind her business, but we'll get to it sooner than I thought. So Sutton shared more medical and mental health issues that her dad had experienced and then advised that he ended up offing himself, which is very unfortunate. This is something that Sutton has shared with us in past seasons. Obviously her dad was somebody that was super dear to her and still is. And I totally get it. Sutton's a daddy's girl, as she mentioned. And I definitely was and still am myself, even though my dad is no longer here either. Unfortunately, he passed from cancer, which is a BIH, as we know. But, anyways, so downstairs, Reba's being her pushy self to Avi. Just low key getting on his nerves. And Garcelle in her confessional makes the side by side comparison of Sutton to her mother because they're just too alike. And I get it, we can see it. And the part I was curious about came, like I said, much quicker than I thought because now we have Garcelle take Miss Reba outside to have a sit down one on one conversation. And she's, just trying to peeking on the situation with Sutton and her mom. And she tells Reba in a nutshell that Sutton's accomplished a lot and just wants Reba to be proud of her. So, in the midst of Reba giving Garcelle the death look, okay, or the deer in headlight stare, or the ice cold glaze over with the eyes, she then says it's none of Garcelle's business. And Garcelle hasn't got a clue. And Garcelle just expresses she's coming from a place as a caring friend and having lost a mother. I guess just more so implying she's wanting them to fix whatever they have because at least, they're both still present to be able to do that. The moral of the story, though, y'all, I ain't even gonna hold you if you didn't even see it. Garcelle got absolutely nowhere with Reba. Conversation shut down was in total effect. We move on. So Garcelle says in her confessional she feels Sutton has gotten what she's gotten from her mom because she feels like Reba was jealous of Sutton and her dad's relationship. Now, that could be true, I guess. I didn't see it that way. I feel like the reason was made kind of abundantly clear when Reba and Kyle were talking. Reba just wasn't nurtured, and again, she had a tough parent coming up, and that stuff transfers, like I said. And sometimes what is put in you is what will be distributed out, to your children. And some people recognize the cycle and stop it, right? Which is where generational curse breaking comes in. And then some people just don't. And it seems like in this instance, unfortunately, it missed over Miss Reba. And instead of her recognizing it and trying to make the change and do something about it, she became, part of it. And so I think the great thing is that it seems to me, though, that Sutton is aware. So she'll be the one who or has already broken the generational cycle with her kids, because from what we know, she has a wonderful relationship with her kids, and I'm sure she is very encouraging and supportive. I can't see it any other way. We don't know that for a fact, but based off of, even the interactions we've seen the couple of times with Sutton and her daughter, it seems like her daughter's very receptive to her and very affectionate with her, and that's great. So Sutton might have come out as the victor on that anyway. And it's like, wow, the ones who are experiencing her, because I get that angle of things too, and having to break cycles. It's hard because it's a weight on our shoulders, right? We carry the baggage and we still don't get the love that we would have liked to get. But knowing that we're able to give it to our kids, and then they'll be able to transfer that down to their kids, who will send it to their kids and beyond, it's worth the battle that you have to go through. So anyways, sidebar. Reba says Northern people put sugar in their grits. I ain't even gonna hold you. Reba told no lies for the most part, because I know a couple of people that would do that. I, in recent years, just started getting into eating grits because I used to think they were disgusting before. And it has to be like some type of shrimp and grits vibes for me. Like, it can't just be grits by themselves. I'm not gonna eat them as breakfast with nothing. Like, they have to be cheesy grits. They got to have some meat with it, all of that. And I can remember one year when my brother came to visit, this man literally took a bag of sugar and was just dousing it on his grits. Like, how you used to see people back in the day making Kool-Aid, and they just tilt that bag and just let it run. Let the sugar overflow. I was like, what is happening? Like, I had to ask my brother, like, what are you doing? So I get it. Me, I don't do the sugar on the grits. Like I said, I barely eat the grits, but it truly is a thing. Anyway, so Sutton shares she wants to go visit the house she grew up in, with her dad, and automatically her mom shuts it down. Like, no, like she wasn't trying to have no parts to it. And that makes sense because a lot of unfond memories have taken place there. And obviously the major one of all, which is Sutton's dad losing his life. And so, particularly for Sutton as well, because she says her mom knew her dad was drinking, medicated, and that there was a loaded weapon in the house that he used to take his life. So I'm thinking somehow, because she said she is resentful and she gets teary eyed. And at first, I didn't make the connection, but it seems to me that she's holding her mom responsible in some sense for her dad's death. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm misinterpreting that, if I missed it and it went over my head like a 747. I'm guessing she feels like she could have prevented it, right? Like maybe her mom was privy to the knowledge that there was a loaded, or maybe she felt like her mom could have done more. But it's just one of those instances where some things are just out of your control. There's always going to be the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but in reality, the things happen in the manner that they're supposed to happen, and nobody can stop it. If it was meant to be stopped, then her mom would have stopped it. I'm sure that it wasn't a situation where her mom was like, yeah, I know these things are occurring. I'm gonna just let him do what he wants. I don't even care. I doubt that. I doubt that was on her mom's mind as a strategy, to prevent anything from happening. She probably was just in a haze and in a daze herself, trying to figure out what was going on with her husband, try to probably maintain her own sanity, raising kids in the midst of it and being attentive to them. And that's a lot going on. So yeah, anyways, but Sutton feels how she feels, right? And our feelings should never be minimized. And so um That's tough too. That to Sutton's knowledge, it seems that her mother hasn't dealt with that trauma either. And that's not good either, walking around harboring that for so long. And that too can play into what you give out as an individual, right? And so, anyways, back in Beverly Hills, Erica FaceTimes Dorit to show her the renovations of her home, which cost a pretty penny. And apparently, 2 months prior to that, y'all, she bought herself a Porsche. So I was like, I better not hear Erica. And I said this at the beginning of the season when they kind of showcased her Porsche a little bit. I don't want to hear her complain about no type of money at all. Okay. The money that she no longer has, the money that she wishes she has. Because again, she's doing pretty well. And I heard her loud and clear. I get that, it's something where she's kind of had to build from scratch. And that wasn't the easiest thing, but you're still doing fairly well compared to most. Everybody or a good portion would say you're still living a luxurious life, girl. Might have been downgraded, from where you came from and the money that you had, but it's nothing worth complaining about. So I said, I don't want to hear it, Erica. I just don't. Okay. Across town, Bose is having an in house dessert date with her daughter. They're just chopping it up, discussing the seriousness of her relationship with her boyfriend, Keely, and getting her daughter's approval, especially on the baby situation. And it seems to me that her daughter's definitely down. You can tell that her daughter wants her mom to be happy and all the things. And they have a really close relationship. As we know, Bose has explained that to us in prior episodes and also in this episode as well. So, I also will note that it's a sweet mother daughter dynamic that Bose and her daughter has, what it should be in a perfect world with mother and daughters. A lot of instances it is, a lot of instances it isn't, as we can see too, the different positions, right? With the dynamic between Sutton and her mom as to Bose and her mom. So I thought that was interesting how we saw that kind of shift there or difference there. So Sutton, Garcelle, and Kyle head to the home Sutton grew up in. Sutton gets there and instantaneously she has an emotional reaction to be there, to the point where it almost appears she might not get out the car, but she did. And so the homeowners allowed the ladies to walk through the home. Obviously, you can tell it's been renovated and, upgraded in some senses, but it still is familiar to Sutton and, the time that she grew up there. And she's pretty much giving history in the different rooms as they walk through and just expressing how much she misses her dad. They go to the room um, where unfortunately she saw him last, the chair he was sitting in, or the couch he was sitting on, or the area he was sitting, I'll say, particularly. And it seemed to me it was her way of pretty much saying goodbye or having some type of closure in the situation, right? But as she's standing in the room, she shares the details of the story and the last time she saw him, and she begins to cry. Garcelle cries too. You can tell that Kyle was getting teary eyed. Very emotional moment, very sad to hear. And that closure was probably good for Sutton, a little more than she thought and realizes, and I'm sure looking back, she was glad that she did take the visit. Took a lot of courage to do. I don't know that I would have been able to do it, but definitely beneficial, I would think, for one's healing process. And so now we have back in Beverly Hills the three musketeers meeting for food, the three besties, Erica, Dorit, and Bose. Bose shares that her and Keely want to have a baby, but haven't said I love you to one another yet. The ladies are just totally floored by that. Like, what? What's going on? Huh? How come? Why not? And so, people, my party people out there, relationships, in love, all that good stuff. Who said I loved you first? Because I'm gonna keep it a bean and tell y'all that my man told me he loved me first. Okay, why? Because he knew I was that girl. He felt it instantaneously. Okay, listen, our Libras or us Libras, we're built different. We're just built with the things of the things of the things. No, let me stop. I thought it was really sweet when my husband did, because I was completely smitten with him. He just got to it first, and I felt like it gave me more a sense of assurance and sincerity and knowing that it was a real thing, because I feel like sometimes that can be a thing that men struggle with, and even at that time, because we were so much younger. So I'll say young men struggle with. You know what I mean? Like my husband and I, we've known each other for 18 years. And so, like to know, and he was definitely a good looking guy and still is, but I'm saying at that time, could have whatever options and to know like it was me. Ooh, like I said, I mean, I knew I had it, but I just needed him to recognize that. So, anyways, too deep into that. Um, Dorit then shares she spoke with PK and he was much more calm with his approach and just pretty much singing a different tune. But the ladies feel like PK is just running game on Dorit. Even Erica says in her confessional that, PK is kind of slick. You know what I mean? I forget the exact word that she used, but that's the gist of what she was saying. And that he plays dirty. He's not going to play a fair game. And Dorit doesn't see it that way. So now we see her kind of getting into somewhat of a defensive mode, very lightly, but still when it comes to her PK. And to a degree, we understand it, right? First of all, this has been her husband for quite a long time. Someone that she loved, someone that she loves. But at the same time, she knows him better than Erica and certainly Bose. Bose has never even met PK, so they're just going off of what they've heard, and we get that. But Dorit knows him on a more intimate level. So I can get her being kind of torn into thinking. But again, people do change. It's not to dismiss what the ladies are telling her because what they're saying is very real also. And sometimes you don't know what people have turned into, or maybe like some would say who they were even from the beginning. You might think you knew who they were and end up being completely wrong. And so I'm glad they're not shielding her because they just want her to keep her eyes open. You can tell that they care about her navigating to protect herself the right way in this situation. And them not shielding her, which would be to her detriment, is a good thing, like I said, and letting her know what it is so she can have the advantage of protecting herself at all costs is what it's about. So I'm glad they're definitely showing her that type of support and love and in that sense. So in the midst of the meal that's being prepared for Sutton, Kyle, and Garcelle, along with Reba, Sutton is stressing out. She's, getting things together. And even Garcelle was like, I'm gonna just go upstairs because I don't even want to be around that right now. Pretty much Sutton is wilding out. She's all in her nerves because apparently she's gonna have the conversation with Reba, pretty much letting her know how she feels. And that's tough. I couldn't imagine. Listen, I've been placed in those situations where I've attempted to have a conversation. Listen, it ain't an easy thing. And sometimes you're like, forget this mess. It ain't even worth it. So Sutton has a layout of clothing within her business for her mother to just kind of lay her eyes on and see. And her mother's checking it out, but naturally we haven't heard her say anything positive about it yet. And so Sutton's sharing the detail and the difficulty that goes into the creation of her clothing. And Reba's totally uninterested. I'm like, come on, Miss Reba, like, get it together. And she's comparing the process that Sutton has explained to ground beef. I was like, okay, stick a fork in me because I'm done. Miss Reba, no, no. Now I know you know better than that at your 80 something year old age that you could have given something different, but okay. Garcelle and Kyle, they're close by on the stairs, eavesdropping in on the conversation. And Sutton's mother is annoying the dog piss out of her while they're in the kitchen, still preparing, which is what some mothers do, right? But again, it's also indicative of how particular Sutton can be, as we've seen even with Avi and her request, right? Or like Garcelle mentioned, her and her mother just being two peas in a pod when it comes to stuff like that. And so she shares that she had a convo the day prior with her brother to get some more insight and context about her mom, and ends up telling Reba that she feels like she's not proud of her and can't and Reba can't understand why she feels that way and asks why wouldn't she be proud of her. And Sutton says, because you never say it. To which Reba responds, I don't need to. And I'm like, yeah, Miss Reba, you do. You really, really do. You really do. What do you mean you don't need to? And so Reba gives a dry, I'm proud of you, but explains that, like with the words, I love you, it's overused, it's trite. But I'm like, is it really though, Miss Reba? And, you know, I don't think there's a limit on how much you can express to someone how much you love them or how proud of them you are. if anything, I feel like they should continuously hear it because it's reassurance, right? And people need that. They thrive off of that. They fuel off of that. Obviously, like Sutton, they cry out for that. It's part of the investment into who they are, and who they I don't want to say who they become because clearly Sutton has done great, right? Without that from her mom, but she still needed that void to be filled. She still missed it. And she would have been better had she had that, and maybe the same energy that she gives Avi, you know, she wouldn't be giving if she gotten different treatment from her mom. So again, it's a domino effect most often than not. And so now Reba became my friend at this moment. Okay. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all because she calmly explained to Sutton without getting on the defense just a quick snippet of how she grew up post World War II. And, she didn't just have anyone pouring, it seemed to me, positively into her. She shared even just coming up, no one ever told her she was beautiful and pretty, which I thought was an interesting scenario for her to present out of it all. But again, that speaks to esteem, right? And that speaks to, for some people, self worth and value. And you just got to put on this shield and this armor, and walk the straight line. That's hard to do, and so it made more sense to me. And I felt like that ended up turning into her willingness even to fly to California to support Sutton's fashion show, because Sutton mentioned she had a fashion show coming up. And Miss Reba was like, I'll get on a plane, I'll come. And I thought that was wonderful because I'm sure that was a big step for Miss Reba. It's not a normal thing for Miss Reba. Clearly, we can tell by the emotions that Sutton began to express again. And even in her confessional, she was just overwhelmed, as she said. And you can tell she was overjoyed, by the fact that her mom was willing to do this. And of course, Miss Reba coupled it with a joke about having to stay in her grandson's room with aquarium and fish. Once she gets there, she was like, oh, do I have to stay in that room? So it still speaks to Miss Reba's character, but I'm glad that she was able to just still show her daughter love in that moment, because you could tell, as I said, it meant everything to Sutton. And Sutton even said it spoke volumes to her. And so she just says she wants to be better. And Reba says we can do better. And I absolutely love that, because there again was acknowledgement on Miss Reba's part and a willingness in that moment alone just to take steps towards that change. And a lot of people don't get to experience that. A lot of people don't get to experience that. So I'm happy when I am able to see it for others. Sometimes it gives you just a glimpse into other people's lives that there is hope. But other times you're just like, well, listen, at least it happened for somebody out there. You know what I'm saying? At least that healing factor is there. And I really hope that it is something that Miss Reba does enforce and put into action so that they can move along and do well with one another and just have a better, you know, have better chapters of life with one another while they have this time together. And so Sutton is emotional, like I said. She goes to give her mother a hug. We see now she's going to get the ladies. So Garcelle and Kyle, who are on the steps. Now they hear something coming, so they're kind of scrambling, act like they weren't listening. Sudden kind of catches them, and Garcelle's asking, "Oh, you okay? How did everything go?" She's like, "Yeah, it went well. It's fine." Sidebar: in the midst of that, I said, "What is Miss Reba doing over there at that bar? Why is Miss Reba at the bar?" Okay. What's she over there mixing up? I said, "Well, go ahead, Miss Reba. I ain't even mad at you. My kind of girl. My kind of girl now, especially." And so they sat down to feast on her dad's infamous crab cakes, which is what she was working on all along, because she said, he had left behind the recipe for her. And I loved that Miss Reba gave a compliment, even if it's on the salad, y'all. We got to start small, right? It's something positive coming out of Miss Reba's mouth. And instead of, offering something negative. And so Sutton says she's leaving wanting to be a better daughter. And Miss Reba chimes in, and a better friend. And I just thought that was a cute way to end the episode. Like I said, I'm definitely wishing them the best and hoping that, this is the start to something new for them. It's never too late, right? As long as you have breath in your body, to give up on a situation, to make it better, to do better. Obviously, you have to have the willing parties and everybody on board to do it. So I just hope that moving forward, we get good updates on, Miss Reba and Sutton and how they're doing with that. So at this point, y'all, that was the end of the episode. That was what we got. At this point, the music is on. The dance floor is lit. Don't be the prude. Hold up the wall. Y'all been prudes holding up the wall because I ain't been seeing y'all much in the comments. So come on, let me know. Talk to me. Chat with me. Y'all can't be running my mouth by myself. I mean, I love to be chatty, but I'm just saying I need a little help. Okay? Give me something to work with. So let me know your thoughts, anything you want to share about this episode. If you think that this was just for the cameras for Miss Reba, if she's too set in her ways to change, if she really cares, if she doesn't, if you felt what she gave was genuine or not. What are y'all thinking about this whole Dorit and PK? Do you think he's low key playing his cards so that he can take over and infiltrate, on their whole divorce situation, have the upper hand on things? Y'all let me know. Okay. And I hope that if this video found you in bad spirits, that somehow it lifted your spirits in some way, shape, or form. Because y'all, all I got to give is love. Okay. All I have is love. So I'm sending all of y'all some virtual hugs for a better day, a brighter day. I hope y'all have a great rest of the week. Y'all know I'll be back next week to do it all over again. So until then, y'all know what to do. Y'all stay up, y'all stay blessed, and I'm out. Peace.